I'm Emily, I'm 30 years old, and I have ADHD. I wanted to make this video today to talk about the process that I went through to get my ADHD diagnosis. And I want this to be a really transparent and honest exploration of how I did that. Before I begin, there are two things to say. The first one is that I am based in the UK, and therefore this video obviously doesn't cover how you might go about getting a diagnosis in other countries. And the second one, and this is the most important one, is that I have to acknowledge that I received my diagnosis privately. That is an incredibly privileged position to be in, and I would hate for anyone to think that I was bragging or that I was unaware of that privilege. Obviously, you can get an ADHD diagnosis via the NHS, but I'm sure, as you're aware, there is a really long waiting list. So absolutely no shade to the NHS, think it's amazing, but I wanted to get my diagnosis fast, and therefore I was able to do that privately. So when I was looking into seeking a diagnosis of ADHD, I came across this brilliant private healthcare facility called Clinical Partners, who we found online, and they are fully remote, so they're based in London, but obviously if you live anywhere else in the country, you can have online consultations with your doctor who can prescribe and monitor your progress. I think it's also important to say here that this video is not sponsored by Clinical Partners. They have no idea that I'm making this, but they have been brilliant and I do recommend them. So once we decided to go with Clinical Partners, I phoned them up, I spoke to some really friendly receptionists who helped me to book an appointment in with a doctor on an evening, which meant it didn't interrupt my work day. And I think it was about 3 weeks in the future that that appointment was coming. In order to secure that appointment, I had to make an initial payment. That fee was £695. Clinical Partners have a really amazing website, so it was all really easy to do online. You have like your own little account space, and it gives you all of your documentation and your bills and notes and all that malarkey in there. So once I'd paid for my appointment, I then got emailed some login details for that space online, and within that space there were some questionnaires that I needed to fill in. These were pre-appointment questionnaires that were going to give my doctor a little bit more information. There were also 2 questionnaires for my partner and my parents. Now obviously in your life, if you didn't have those people, you could put them with, say, a housemate or someone who knows you really well, who spends a lot of time with you in your current life, so in the past year, 2 years. And then obviously a guardian, or even just a teacher, somebody who knew you when you were a child quite well, and they can give your childhood background as well. The 2 questionnaires I had to fill in was one that was for a differential diagnosis between ADHD and autism. So quite often the 2 can be confused. So it was just a questionnaire to work out whether I had one or the other, or potentially both. And the other one was a general health questionnaire. It had questions about my physical health, my medication history, and then also my mental health as well. And also in there were questions around why I had self-referred for a potential diagnosis of ADHD. So once the questionnaires were filled in and my appointment date rolled around, I had a wonderful Zoom call with my doctor, who was really friendly, really understanding. The appointment itself took about 2 hours. And once the appointment was over, I was told that I would get sent a report within about a week with my official diagnosis on it. When the report came through, I didn't have to pay anything extra for that report. It was uploaded to my user area on their website, and it was really interesting to read. It gave me some advice on what I should do next. It also said that potentially I may want to pursue medication, and if I wanted to do that, that I needed to book some follow-up appointments to talk about the medication and obviously have it prescribed. It was at this point that it also mentioned having a shared care agreement with my GP. Basically what that means is that my GP has agreed to take over my treatment once I have got a medication plan that is right for me, which means that I won't have to pay any more fees once that period is over. However, right now, I'm still trying to work out what medication works for me. Once I'd had my initial diagnosis, I then took a couple of months just to adjust to the idea that I had ADHD, pursue some other options for treatment that weren't medication based. And I also spent a lot of time looking at that report and working out kind of what I needed to do next if I did want to pursue medication, which was I had to get a blood test and I had to get my ECG done to check I had no heart defects. I did this on the NHS. I just went to my GP, I told them what the situation was, and they quite happily booked me in for a blood test a couple of weeks later and an ECG. I think I had to wait about a month for that. Obviously those tests were free because they were on the very wonderful NHS. Thank you, NHS. Once I had the results and I knew that I was healthy, I could then book another appointment in with the same doctor. That would be an online appointment again, 30-minute appointment to talk about the medication that I could potentially take. And the cost for that 30-minute appointment was £225. During that appointment, we talked about the types of medication that I could take. We talked about potential side effects, and we came to the decision that I was going to try 80 milligrams of the slow release version of Concerta, which I've now been taking for a month. My next appointment is actually in about an hour's time. Because the medication is being prescribed privately, I do still have to pay for that as well. So clinical partners charge a prescription processing fee that is £75. And then when the prescription arrives at the pharmacy, I have to pay for that when I actually get to the pharmacy to pay for the pharmacy's time. So that fee for me at my local pharmacy is £39.50. Over the course of the next couple of months, while we try and work out what medication I need to be taking, what dosage, and how it suits my lifestyle, I will have to pay that half-an-hour appointment fee, the medication processing fee, and the pharmacy fee until I get to a point where my dosage and medication is stable. So right now we're looking at about £339 per month. That brings my total cost for my diagnosis and my medication and medication reviews currently to £1,374. It's a lot of money, but I feel like it is an investment that I'm making in myself. I understand I could have got a diagnosis on the NHS, but I would have had to wait a long time, and having the money available and being able to spend it on a private diagnosis has meant that I've been able to expedite the process. Again, acknowledging that that's an incredibly privileged position to be in. And if you aren't able to afford a private diagnosis, I understand that that is a really difficult situation to be in, and you do have my sympathy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a running total of how much my actual treatment and the diagnosis costs me by the time I then go to the NHS, and I will be able to give a figure, an updated video on how much the whole process has cost me. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you've got any questions or you want some more information about something I've mentioned, just drop me a comment. I would love to hear from you, and I really hope that if you are pursuing a diagnosis that you can make some headway soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!